Thank you. Now we go straight ahead and introduce the second of tonight's speakers, who is Robyn.
Thanks, Dave. My name is Robyn. I'm an addict.
Hi, Robyn.
How am I doing on this mic? You hear me okay?
Yeah.
All at the back? Because somebody at the back give me a cheap wave there if you can hear me. That was it. Good work. Seems like a good place to start. You never know. Hear myself anyway. No, goodness gracious. This interesting moment where we will see if the speaker can think of anything to say. My coffee. Well, first things first. Thank you to the previous speaker. That was a wonderful chair. That really, my goodness. Time I hear the readings, at any meeting, and then I hear the chair, and oh my God. So I drift through, I go through my day, I kind of got my street head on, my street eyes, and you're bopping around doing whatever you got to do for your day, your work, your recreation, your relationship, whatever it is. And then, as often as you can throughout the week, we come to some of these meetings. And it's different. Look, I already told my whole life story. First sentence, my name is Robyn. I am an addict. Jesus. Everything was governed by that simple fact. Do you know? Oh, man. And everybody, we're here. We're not here because, because it's free. We're not here because, da-da-da-da-da. We're here for a reason. Everybody's got their own slight twist on it, but basically we're here because we have experienced in our lives this wretched, bloody illness, this disorder, this disease, this travesty of life that we choose to call addiction, and we'd like something better. Dear God, it couldn't be much worse. That was so eloquent, all you said, It was lovely. All I ever wanted, it was said quite, all I wanted was a little bit of peace of mind. Everybody, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different kind of way of they react to the world, the family, the skills you're born with, whatever it is. One of the things I always did, I always kind of wrote stuff down since I was a kid. I had little, and I got going back a good few years now, diaries and journals and stuff. Long before I ever heard of this addiction or had any idea what it was, I'd write stuff down like I'm going out of my mind. All I want is some peace of mind. No peace. I looked through and I wrote that stuff down, I'd heard of addiction. The same way I heard of the planet Mars, It was, I don't know, it was somebody like in New York City that shoved heroin in with a needle, I don't know. It was nothing to do with what I saw going on all around me. I grew up in a village in Canada, And before dope came along, booze did a pretty good job of wiping out a certain percentage of the locals. And then we got, and I'm a late 60s kid, and we got the public bloody myth they got going. The marijuana these days is 10 times stronger and consequently doing vastly greater harm to the young people of today. Fuck off. Jesus, give me a break. I was there. Dope was strong. Amphetamines was powerful. People got liquored up, boozed up. There was very little heroin there. But my experience that people, if what I know now is this inner demon that drives you onwards, my pal could smoke a reefer, smoke a spliff, and wander, it would go away and leave it alone till the next weekend. I smoked one, and 3 years later, I'm still on the same stone. That line, I got stoned once, and I stayed that way for 17 years. Fuck, And I didn't know why. I didn't know, And I was a bit envious. The first speaker says, the first few years were pretty good. First 10 minutes, maybe, for me. Oh, damn. It was like I don't know. I heard that said. I've been around a little while now, and I heard some good speakers, and I heard a lot of people be honest, which, boy, I respect it, And that line, I chased the first high. The first one was good, and then the second one wasn't quite the same, so I did more. And then it didn't work at all. I felt very confused and screwed up, and I didn't want to be this way at all, so I did a lot more. And that is my story. I mean, oh my God. I picked up roughly, my life, roughly with thirds. I picked up, say I was about 15 years old, used 17 years. I'm going to quit tomorrow. All that time. I'll get it together tomorrow. I won't get up and get loaded tomorrow, and I'll figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with anything you name. Relationship, tax return, get an education, do something or other. Tomorrow. But today, since I already got high, I might as well get really fucked up. You know? That went on for 17 years. I was 32. And then this is the biggest weird thing. You can use that phrase, weird thing, funny thing, miracle, unexplained event of my life. Somehow, I got here. I got to NA. And then the real miracle is, somehow, after huge resistance, I didn't want any part of this. Thank you very much. This might be good for these people, but goodbye. Somehow, I woke up. I woke up. Zap. And for me, it was bang, 1 second. It was in the afternoon, I believe it was a Thursday, it was the 14th of September, 1987. I had a flash. Now, I have a strong feeling everybody here has done a bit of dope. You know what it's like, you have a big flash. Bang! You know. Well, I had this flash. And far quicker than I can say it in words right now, I had this. This is an illness. I got this illness. That's why I fucked my whole life. Now, if I do what these people are saying, everything will be all right. And since that moment, which, as I said, happened quicker than I can say it, I just said, bang, click. I've never used again, you know. You can say that, but damned if I can understand it. I just, now. Because I'm serious. I'm going to quit tomorrow. You know, like this isn't, why did I get high? I'm kind of confused, and life's going by, you know. I got busted. I was here, I was there, I missed this, I missed that. You know, there's an old song. I was stoned and I missed it. I was stoned and it went right by. Like, what? You know? That whole you're so spaced, you're missing your life. And you know it. This is the bad part. You know it. Oh, fuck. You know? It was rough. One of the things about this, I'm speaking into a mic here. This is being recorded. This is going to last a little bit. This story, this little bit of a folk tale, because this is what it is. You know, we all get together and swap stories. It's kind of like some old-time thing where people didn't get stuck in front of an electric box at home by themselves. They got together and swapped stories. And there's some power in that, because basically that's all I ever figured out what we're doing. We do try to do the steps, talk about the steps, show up together, spend time together, listen to what each other got to say, and go home. And because I do this, my whole life is changed. Now, anything, they say, look, you know, we can cure your addiction, you got to go to a big place, I'm going to hit you with a stick for half an hour every day for the rest of your life. It would be a better deal than what I had. You know, I was on the way out, I was brain dead, I was on the run from the international fucking forces of good. The bastards. You know, my dope dealing partner went down and did 20 years. Didn't get like 20 and do 10 or something. He did 20 years. It was like everything was insane. Because I wasn't like a weekend user. You got that. You know, I was in the heart of the madness. And that was it. I wanted to be on the scene, and I wanted to be a mover on the scene. I was addicted to adrenaline, to action, to the fast lane, the stuff coming, to the phone going off in the middle of the night, to I got to make it to the airport in 10 seconds. Hurry up! I don't know. You know, I was a dealer. I lived fast. And I'll tell you, it all confused me, you know? And I'll tell you something else. Lots of times, I miss it. I miss it. For a moment, you know? And what would have happened before all that time? I said, I'm going to get out of this lunacy, this madhouse, this three-ring circus of insanity. You'd have like the moment where you wanted to do it, so okay, I'll just drop that tab or smoke that or sniff that, you know, and then it would self-perpetuate. What happens now? I get a moment where I think, the hell with this stable lifestyle where I got to be responsible and show up and do things that aren't mad movie moments, you know. I get a moment and it passes, and then I'm okay. It's all right. The door isn't going to explode inward. And they're not going to drag you off in shackles, and you're not going to get tear gassed inside like it's happened to me. La-da-da-da-da-da-da. That stuff ain't going to happen. Remember, I started off by saying something. I recall this myself. All I wanted was a little peace of mind. Oh, man. You know, these are extremely opposite tendencies. As I said, it was confusing. And I was confused. But as long as I stayed high and kept moving and had to stay so crazed on adrenaline, it was like a quick dance, like some shootout in the movies, I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to explain why I'm doing this. And like my brother would show up, who, bless you, brother, could get a little bit high and then put it all down, leave it alone, and go off and have a job and have 3 major hobbies and be a creative, productive, sane guy. What is this? And how he could do that and I could not do that. And I'd never heard of addiction. You know? Damn it all. I spent my whole life, I think, I know, positive that just around the corner, just out of the corner of my eye, you know, somebody's having a better time than me. There's a faster party, there's louder music, there's real action going on. If I go a little quicker, I'll get there, you know. And what you get used to anything. The first time I was around serious firearms, it was a shock. It started off, the dope dealing thing was all, you know, a bit of reefer in the 60s. Later on, things got wild, things got wilder, things got fucking wild. You know, around like hand cannons and shit. And man, what's he got in his armpit? You know? And after all, you're so blasé about it. I'm reminded, what's some phrase? You have never been wide awake until you've had a gun go off in your ear. I've been wide fucking awake, I'll tell you. Jesus. You get used to anything, and you need a stronger jolt next time to be a little more shook out of yourself. I said to my brother one time, I was convinced that there's a party going on that's better than this one. And I said, kind of anxiously, you know, I lead a pretty fast life, you know. He looked at me like I was insane. Well, nobody would argue with that. I mean, I had lost perspective. And I could ramble on about that all for a bit, but that gives the flavor of it, if not all the detail. The stuff is, you know, like I got the next 20 years, I've been clean and sober, and legal, for 20 years. It's a long time. I will say, it don't feel like a long time to me. But, you know, when I come around, I had like 6 months or something, then I was thinking, oh my God, I was going to quit every day for like 17 years. I got no skills. I was on the run. I was used to money, power, action, and I had to turn my back and walk away from all of that. And that, I will now, at 20 years distance, give myself some credit for doing that, because it was not easy. It did help that I had to run from my home and native land and be somewhere else, and all the connections were far away, and it helped. And I was desperate. I was at a rock bottom. I was so depressed and confused and effectively brain dead from waking up and throwing strong toxins straight down my throat as quick as I could. You know, your rock bottom's your best friend. You don't come here for something to while away a few minutes. You come here because you're desperate, and you stick because you're desperate. But what amazes me, what I have seen, I have lived some stuff and I've also seen some stuff, and they're both valid learning techniques. What I've seen in 20 years of being around NA is people go out again and choose to be that way again. And if it was a miracle that anybody comes in, that we walk away from the lunacy and the fucking dregs, you know. It's a miracle you come in, it's a change of an equal order, that you go out again. And I've seen it. And I've spoken at funerals of people that I did a lot of service with, that I cared for, that went out. And they were found after a while by the smell in the flat, by the neighbor complaining. I never seen anybody go, oh, now I can use, now it's happy, now it's fine. I have never seen that. It might happen, but I've never seen it. What I've seen is they go out in 10 seconds. It's like, so you take a sponge, zoom, wipe off anything, a peace of mind, of tranquility, of focused personality that was in the face, desperately how quick it happens. And they go out. And it's like, I heard this, you know, what is it now? You pick up again. It's not like you get to go back even to where you left off. You don't get a honeymoon. It's like your using takes over exactly as it would be if you kept using all the way through your sobriety right up to that point. Now I heard that. God knows if I put it clear enough. But I have experienced it not by relapsing since I got the program, but before, for a little bit, a few times, throughout 17 years of being loaded, I managed to get clean by literally leaving and going and hiding somewhere, and for for an infinite long time, 3 weeks of willpower and hiding. Or maybe I think 2 months once when I shaved my head and joined a fucking cult. 2 months! It was long. I figured that was long enough. And I used the day I left, and I was straight back. And I remember thinking, you'd think I would have had a bit more of a honeymoon than I had. Because it's right back, into the heavy cognac and cocaine. And it's like your brain is a sponge and they're wringing it out. It hurts, Anyway, yada, yada, yada. You learn. This has been a learning. A slow learning process. And as I say, I made every mistake there is to make, except the big one, except I never picked up, Because it is very simple. You pick up once, and it is very much like one short step, and that short step is off a cliff. I know what I was like. I very rarely craved, because I was a volume dealer. I controlled warehouses. I had money. I had an infinity of booze. I usually had a big stash because I wasn't going to run out. That could have all gone. It did go at the end. The money went and everything, but I was gone away and over here, and I made a new start, I told you that I had that moment of flash. I said, this is an illness, and I got it. That was my awakening moment. And what happened next? Fuck all that I could see. I was still the same. Everything was the same. I was divorced. The money was gone. I was on the run. I couldn't come up with a coherent consecutive sentence. I had done myself some damage. Nothing happened all in a minute. But I say, I brought not much in. I was effectively brain dead, and that is a sad statement. But I did have one thing. And I said, I was a dealer. I was a gambler on the psychedelic black market. That required one thing. That required, listen carefully because this is the whole thing, it required that I show up. If I was going to do some goddamn deal, I had to meet the people that I was playing with. When I realized that I was going to, if I wanted something out of this, I would come to these meetings, I showed up to the meetings. And one thing I learned by watching other people, not everybody gets that. I had. Sums up that one. The guy says, oh, that doesn't work, I said, oh, yeah. How many meetings you go to? Oh, one every 2 or 3 weeks. Now, I did the wrong thing. I said, yeah, brain dead twat. It wasn't the thing to say, but I was pissed off. Like, what do you fucking want? Look, you want guitar lessons don't work. I took one once and I can't play the guitar. You do not got a brain. What do you fucking want? Anything, stay fit. You got to go to the gym more than once. Whatever it is. You want to starve to death, you got to eat more than once. Whatever. Look, show up at these things. How terrible is it? You can sleep. I have, You're laughing at me. I'm up here at this front table stuck with a load of dangerous people. Oh, man. I knew how to show up. We were hearing a little bit of talk about service and all, H&I before. I got in a bit. 6 months I took on a service commitment. I went once a week to a hospital and talked to the people there, and that kept me. I know to the minute where I would have relapsed at 9 months, somebody showed up. What was hard for me, an old pal shows up with something special. I saved this up when I seen you. And we used to get high together in the mountains of India and all that. And I would have found that very hard to say no, but that very morning, I'd been in a hospital unit and I'd say, this program works if you work it. I was not going to make myself a liar. So with great difficulty, I said, oh, thanks a lot, man, but I'd rather not. And of course, thank you, God. An hour later, I was so happy I got over. That was the closest I ever got to using, I think. A bit later, I got to be like I was in charge of, H&I Northwest at that time. And I had to get a lot of new life skills, I'll tell you, because I was off the books and I was off the planet. It was hard to come back where I had to do stuff. But I ran the committee, which was, a bunch of us, a bunch of formerly using addicts, now clean addicts, going to prisons and schools. I think it was mostly prisons then we had. But it was like when I ran my dope dealing crew. Hey man, on the telephone, how you doing? How are things? Listen, you okay for Thursday, 6 o'clock? Make people feel like they're part of the goddamn thing. I put out a monthly newsletter. I had meetings. I organized a raffle. You come to the meeting to phone everybody up. We have the meeting, we're going to have a cake. I baked the cake. It was like I had some skills that I could bring to it. To motivate a crew to do some damn thing. And it was a lot of fun. When I did that stuff, I got a bigger picture on how big this illness is and how big this program is. When I worked on the telephone, I sit in the office, phone rings, and I'd have to, you look at some literature, they tell you what to do. And I could it's more than just me. I knew nothing. I didn't know what addiction was. I didn't know what recovery was. And it was a learning process. It was the same way I learned to be what I used to do, to be that kind of merchant. I've learned other things since, One of the big things I did, I took on a professional skill. I'm a physician. Now, get that in before I babble any more about using. We know about using. What can you do when you don't use? That's what I had to figure out. A fella, one of us, I learned by example. I remember hearing the fella talk about he was studying to be a physician, a specialist in the neuromusculoskeletal systems and disorders of the body. I always trained. I was always like a gymnast, and I ran, and I was interested in that. I was so impressed. This guy is doing an honors BSc in that. And I heard him talk about it for years. There's a long time. And then one time, somehow, like I said, this spark that I could get clean, it came in a spark. Maybe I could do what that guy's doing. But what do you do? Well, I go up and I talk to him. It was like there's a first step to any damn thing. And the guy couldn't be nicer, of course. Well, come around to my place and we'll talk about it. Now, here was like one of these flash moments. This is I talked about a flash and you learn something. I got this place and he's got this anatomy book. That's like what my brother could read and I couldn't in the old. I remember this. And the book is about like 9 foot by 10 foot by 33 foot deep. And I panicked. And I opened the thing up in the middle somewhere and I looked at a page and I said, I could never do this. And he looked at me. He says, typical addict. Start on page 1. I was never so surprised. Oh, you start on page 1. It was a flash to me. I spent my whole life thinking, well, everybody knows but me. It didn't occur to me that they started on page 1 and figured it out. I didn't know. I fucking had no clue. I looked at him. Then the other, so that was a flash thing, what he gave me. Dear Terry, he's a lovely man, he's still around. The other thing he said, like I said, but what I figured was I'll make a start, and then I'll fail, and I'll quit, and everybody will laugh at me, ha 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 ha, and I'll have to change my name and leave town. I'll fail. I could see this quite clearly. He looked at me, he says, look, if you can study an hour a day, everything will be all right. Wow! He said, everything will be all right. That was part of my original flash. If I do what these people are saying, everything will be all right. So, an hour a day. Okay, right, I'll do an hour a day. It's like a clock and coffee and these books. And 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock every morning I sit down. I had to learn how to study. I was thrown out of school. I was a teenager. That was a while ago. Believe me, that was part of that original story. And he told me, how to get started, where to go, what the form to fill out, how to apply the stuff, what to do. That's what we help each other. And since then I've been able to tell other guys, oh yeah, here's the number, phone up and ask them, here's what you do. I didn't have a clue. And I did it, and I studied. Jesus, it worked out to about 5 years. And I have a skill that they pay you money for. Amazing and incredible. I never paid tax in my life up till the joys of recovery. I didn't. It's all new to me. And I have had people think, oh, it's okay for you. Like I used to think it's okay for somebody else. Yeah, sure. And I'm still tight with some of the old crew and some of the people. They moved on from our wild days. And they, when I did that, they said, look, nobody that knows you can believe you did that. You did an honors BSc. You're a physician. You did that. And it locks into, what was it now? Another fella said something kind of parallel but bigger a while ago. He says, you did pretty good to get 20 years clean. And I thought about it for a moment. I said, well, I just did it one day at a time. The fella says, that's what all you old-timers say. And it's how it is, I'm telling you, sometimes I could use. Sometimes I want to run some deals. Sometimes I want to run wild. Sometimes I don't want to fucking be around, But I cut it right short. I cut it right down to this. Well, I'll stay clean till midnight tonight. And then I stopped thinking all about how nice the bottle at the supermarket, all that rack of booze, and there's my favorite, that one down, 3 down and 1 over. It waves at me, the little bastard. It does. So if you're on acid, hi! Still there? I'm still here, I look out the window, I don't want a cigarette either. Actually, I do, but I'm not going to let anybody know. Then you go out and the bloody kids in my street, they're smoking a reefer. No, that smells nice. But I won't, I don't. That's a moment of desire. The comparison with that and the obsessive, compulsive craving that was the way before, man. What a change. And basically, back to this thing, what we do is we show up and kind of swap folk tales with each other and listen sometimes. And somehow, things get better. Now, a lot of how I come into this, I wanted to be an artist that I was still using. I was on the run over here. I took an art course, and the tutor got to be a good friend. And he's the guy got me to go to a counselor got me to go here. That's how I come in, that little particular route. The counselor got me to go to these meetings. But later, that art tutor, his son, who was a friend of mine, he got to be like late teens, and he got to be in a familiar state where he's so kind of wired and scrambled that it wasn't really very good for him or for anybody else. So, with the joy of passing back something that was passed to me, I got him, well, let's go to a meeting. We went to a meeting, and he thought it was okay, and then he goes off. And later, his dad said, well, he said, I couldn't do what Robyn did. I can't go to all those meetings all that time. And the answer is, well, neither bloody well can Robyn. I just go to one meeting at a time. I just stay clean till midnight. That's it. Break it down. If there's one thing that I gotta, that anybody listening, particularly this is for anybody listening in a damn cell or in a prison meeting, where I've been, the prison, not the meeting inside. Because we never had this when I was in. We get out and go nuts again. If anybody wants one thing out of what I goddamn well got to say, it's this. One day at a time. Just that. One day at a time. One day at a time, I don't pick up some drink or drug that'll throw me off a cliff and back into the gutter. One day at a time. I did stuff like build up. I studied for one day at a time. Then I figured out a little format where I'll study this tomorrow, and the next day we'll look at that. And I worked out a little schedule, and I had support within my school as I got within my meetings. And I got a profession. It's better to have a profession. More fun than the way it was. One time I remember the guy, what was it? I went to a reading, a big, famous, you would know who it is, novelist, and his stuff's made into big movies and all that. And he starts off, it's a book reading in a store. He starts out and says, hi, I'm an addict. He said, I'm an addict and an alcoholic. It's the first thing he said. And he was real upfront about it. He writes like that crime fiction and all that. He's been around a long time. I was so impressed. You don't got to be ashamed about this, He says, it's better being clean and making a living off writing about stuff what I've seen and made up than it was being an active using addict. Man. Talking about, always time runs out when you're doing these chairs, You go along, I'm saying you go along one day at a time. There's a lot of like putting one foot after the other, trudge, plod, trudge, trot. And then every once in a while there's a flash. And I mentioned a couple of them, like bang, I get this clear moment and I can see, wow, this is interesting. This is powerful. And you do get it when you're sitting here talking. And I know everybody here's had the chance to be part of a meeting. We're all part of the same thing right now, just that it's my brief moment to be on this side of the microphone. It would be silent in this room were there not one of us on this side of the microphone. It would be a powerless room if it was only me. if not the collected battery charge of all of us focused together on what we're involved in, whatever you want to call it. You may not want to use the word spiritual fellowship. I don't know. Our gang, our group, our brotherhood, our magic adventure. Who cares what you call it, but show up again. Because we form a battery, and together we manage to connect and charge ourselves up. I was talking about a few flashes. I had one. I maybe just got time to work this in for the time of this particular little folktale runs out, you know. I said I took that, I studied to be a physician, which is a thing I do. I couldn't afford it. I'd lost my money. It was very expensive. What the fuck am I going to do? Well, I'll do the first step. I'll apply to the place and see if I get accepted before I worry about where the money's going to come from. I applied, one step at a time, one day at a time. I applied. And they say, you may be interested to know that this year, only this year, is an anniversary of the founding of this college. To celebrate this, we're having a scholarship competition. I leave a silence there. You can project the entire thing. You know what I'm going to say from now on. I went ahead, and one step at a time, I found out what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to write an essay about the value of this mode of healing within our community. I worked on it. I wrote it out. I did it the obsessive, compulsive way that we all used. I had every day, well, I'll write this down, I'll write that bit down, I'll write that, I'll stick it on the wall, I'll line these 3 bits up in a different row. I worked at it. And in the middle, I did what I've always done. I gave up. I panicked and freaked out and I quit for about 2 days. And then I regrouped and I came back. And I wrote this essay and I won the first bloody prize scholarship. The biggest, the most money, the most prestigious thing given by a member of the royal bloody family. In the newspaper. Big amends to my parents. All of that. That was like a flash. That was like, you've trudged a long way. Now we'll give you a big exciting Technicolor movie moment. Make up for some of this shit. And to finish with my final one, I say, that's the higher power, if you want to use that phrase, made that available to me. Like they never did it the years before, they never did it again. I had to do the legwork to write out this stuff, to figure out how to, best fulfill the criteria for this magic moment to happen. But I was available because of the fellowship. All kinds of stuff happened in my life, and I missed it all because I was in a bloody dope coma. And now, I'm available to this moment. We all are, To what degree it comes in, it's variable for everybody. But it's fun. It's going somewhere, which is a big thing to me. This is going somewhere, This is the weekend of our convention. We can go there and check out what other charged batteries there are to move in on, to tune up at, to charge ourselves up with. We got resources, and everybody's already doing it just by being here tonight. You're doing the right thing. It never gets any harder than this, It's, this is fun. This is scary. This is high energy. This is amusing. This is an adventure. This replaces a lot of the old stuff that I did. Just being here with everybody tonight. So, as ever, I thank the Secretary for asking me. I thank the first speaker who put me onto it. And I thank everybody for putting up with me. One more day at a time. Thank you very much.